Hello everybody. Welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having an absolutely fantastic day. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. It kind of goes without saying at this point, I'm sure nearly all of you have felt the energy that's been flowing through the cryptocurrency market. How many, this is a real question, how many of you out there have been receiving those texts and phone calls from friends who were either in the market before, who were trying to get into the market, and or people who may have joked about you being in the market, made fun of you being in the market, and now they want to join in as well. It's quite an interesting, it's a very interesting time to see the amount of people who are re-jumping back into the market. Even a lot of my friends who've been in the market over the course of the last year who were lightly bearish. I don't think they're watching, but hello if you are. Lightly bearish are like buying, and I mean like buying like huge amounts as well. Like, and I was telling them like in a nice way, I was like, you know, you had 2 years to do this, right? Like you had a 2-year period. They were like, yeah, but prices were low. And I was like, yeah, that's what you normally do. So the speculation continues. We move ever closer to the halving. I'm seeing really weird different numbers for some reason. A lot of people have been posting different metrics and weird numbers on their websites. We had one on this channel a couple of days ago. Someone said that the halving is 60 days away. I saw something on Binance that said 50 days. Another website said 44. One said 40. And I was like, I think a lot of you need to fix your numbers. The optimism around the halving is, as usual, palpable. But there's also a new contender in the ring who's also been taking up a huge, rather huge space in the news within the cryptocurrency space as well. It is Ethereum. We are moving to the point where, as every single cycle, people are now predicting and talking about how they believe Ethereum is going to outperform Bitcoin, which it typically does. That's not anything like, oh my gosh, can it happen? No, like it's fairly normal that Bitcoin will go up by 5%, Ethereum goes up by 12%. It's that kind of thing. Usually, by the time we are 6, 7, 8 months after the halving, we are going to start hearing more discussions again about a flippening. For those of you who have never heard of the flippening, it's not usually discussed until we're in a bull cycle. The idea of the flippening is that Ethereum would or could one day flip Bitcoin and become the #1 coin. We came kind of close before, but also so has XRP. The way that the market is structured, at least from my vantage point, this is probably not going to happen this cycle. It's more of a Bitcoin is the narrative and has been the narrative for a while. That is not to say that Ethereum is not going to do exceedingly well over the course of the next 18 months, but it's just more of a, you're going to start hearing about it and the hype will become incredibly real as a lot of people begin to believe that Ethereum could become the #1 coin. Senior crypto researcher, his name, at Bitwise, his name is Ryan Rasmussen. Okay. Predicted Bitcoin could or would reach around $88,000 by the end of this year in a recently released interview with Yahoo Finance. In Bitcoin's recent surge, the crypto reached its highest level in over 2 years, breaking above $57,000. That was apparently another metric that we needed to pass by. Do you know how normally you'll hear like, we got to get by 42,000. If we can break by 49,000 and stay above 59 was apparently another psychological level. Of course, 60,000 being the next one because that's just how numbers work. But we are constantly breaking records early, as we normally would not be this far ahead, price-wise at least. There's also, I don't have it here, the amount of volume that's been passing through the ETFs is also like breaking new records every day. I think we actually got to one day where it reached like, was it 2.3 or 2.6 billion dollars? That's billion with a B. Typically we saw anywhere from 200 million, 300 million, 400 million, and things like that. But for some reason, we got over several billion over the course of one day. This is, of course, dragging an extra interest into the market because numbers like that actually end up going on to I'm air quoting here, like mainstream news outlets, because I don't know if you saw the chart. It was floating around on Twitter. Someone posted that of all the ETFs, hold on. A little bit easier that way. Someone posted something that said of all the ETFs that are out there, and I think even like they were showing numbers of, I don't know why it's acting up now. I have no idea. That's really weird. Showing the numbers of the S&P 500, and BlackRock's ETF alone was like not that far off. It had to maybe double to actually end up being in like the top 3 traded things. And the S&P 500 was also one of them. So you can tell that the energy is definitely there. But as we get closer and closer to the previous all-time high, it's causing a lot of people to completely lose it, because I don't know why. I do not know why every single cycle as prices go back down, a lot of people become very pessimistic, and they simply, I've seen it everywhere. People believe that it will never go back to the all-time high. It won't get anywhere close to it. What's this guy's name? Peter Schiff, the gold guy. I try not to give him any of my energy, but he's always on Twitter, or rather I see people reposting what he's saying, of course making fun of him and stuff, but it's still like giving him like a light spotlight that he does not deserve. A couple of months ago, he was saying that he was expecting Bitcoin to fall back down to like $9,000. I mean, just really weird, insane things. And then when we started, I mean, this is like 5 or 6 days ago, there was news that we were doing extremely well with the inflows to the Bitcoin ETFs and how they were showing up on the rankings. For those of you who missed it, once again, just BlackRock's ETF alone has outperformed 99.98% of all other ETFs ever. When that news came out, he went on the news and was talking about how gold isn't going up because of the president, and it's not going up because of inflation. And it's like, no, you just live in this really weird fantasy world where you have invested in something that shouldn't have been invested in. You've been making fun of Bitcoin for 12 years, and at no point did anything in your mind say, maybe I'm incorrect, maybe let me think another way. Like, you're so set in your, it's so weird to see this happening. I told you all before, I had a friend many years ago who knew someone who was trying to get into, he wanted to get into investing. I told you this story like half a year ago. And he was asking this guy who we both knew what he should invest in. I told him crypto, and the other guy told him gold. And I sit here and I do wonder, like, you know how like you have those moments like where you're just like contemplating life. I think like, where's that guy now? Where's the guy who was like heavily invested in gold? Because me and him had a conversation one time, and he made me feel like I was talking about some like alien spaceship kind of technology or something. He was like, no, like Bitcoin's not real. Like, it's not going to like actually work. Like, what you're reading online is like science fiction. And I was like, no, I'm pretty sure Bitcoin and the other blockchains work. We would have heard from some other analyst or, you know, coders that it didn't work. He's like, no, like gold is the way to go. Like he wouldn't budge. There was no budge there. So I wonder if he's been looking at the charts, or if at any point in the last like 4 or 5 years since I spoke to him, if he's like, oh crap, I've been wrong, let me go buy some Bitcoin. But you'll notice once again, you may have noticed, whenever the price goes down, anyone who was a naysayer will try to make you feel bad for being in the market. You must have seen it. It happens so quickly as well. I told you. So many people who I've known over the years, we're going to move on, don't worry, who I've known over the years, who I've discussed crypto with, I'm not even trying to tell them to get into the market. It's literally just me being like, oh yeah, this happened. Or they'll bring it up themselves and they're like, how's that Bitcoin going? It's happened so many times across the spectrum of everyone who I've known. Anyway, yeah, that's the I guess my life story kind of thing. However, the interview highlighted how year to date, he says Ethereum has managed to outperform its larger crypto rival. These coins are not rivals. What's everyone's obsession with thinking that, like, what's the name of that movie, The Warriors, from like the 80s? Like, which is like, come out and play. I'm moving my fingers as if I'm holding bottles, and I'm not. What is this obsession that so many people have with assuming that everything is a rival of something else within the cryptocurrency space? Have you ever read an article that said like Apple outperformed other stocks today with a 5% rise? They even did better than their rival Tesla. What's this like inner idea that everything has to be some kind of a rivalry? Even when you hear the developers and the people who made or who like deal with the code, they're like, no, like we all work together. We're trying to make these things interoperable. We understand that the space needs to have some kind of unity. But articles and people on TV are always talking about it kind of like this, once again, like really tribal thing. No, Ethereum and Bitcoin aren't rivals. They're meant in essence to kind of complement each other. Bitcoin is meant to be a global world digital currency that can be used by 8 billion people. And Ethereum is meant to be like a world computer that allows for smart contract functionality so that you can do like anything that you would want to do with Bitcoin to pay for something. You would have the actual like smart contracts on Ethereum, and they would kind of... Rasmussen stated that Bitcoin benefits from excitement around the upcoming halving event and bullish futures trading positions, which are also back in the news. I do not personally care for futures. I think they're absolute nonsense. However, options and derivatives of Bitcoin right now are doing incredibly well. The volume for them is pumping back up again. These people are going to have a very difficult time in the future when they realize that they're dealing in US dollars and not in actual Bitcoin, and that they should have simply just been buying Bitcoin and or buying shares of Bitcoin ETFs to have actual exposure to Bitcoin as opposed to a futures number price in US dollars, but that's something else. However, the analyst believes that Ethereum is bullish due to the anticipation around the Deneb Cancun upgrade in March, which is driving a lot of excitement. The upgrade is reportedly expected to lower transaction costs. It's supposed to do like 19 different things. As far as we've heard in the news, it's meant to lower transaction costs, allow more throughput, allow more transactions per second, allow for transaction batching, allow for, I think, ZK rollups, and what's the other one? The other like weird sounding one. Bakoopadoop. Like, what is it? I don't want to sit here and like try to remember it. Like I'm thinking like really weird stuff. Oh gosh, what is it called? I don't remember. It has some really weird name. It's also meant to do something for the network as well. And a lot of people think that this upgrade apparently is going to be like the thing that we've all been waiting for Ethereum, so that Ethereum can finally show what it's doing and how well it can perform and do all these, blah, 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 and be more industrial and more for institutions. There's also been a huge uptick in the amount of staking for Ether, for those of you who've missed it. There's like a massive amount of Ether is being staked every single day, being put into the network in anticipation of a price rise, of the upgrade, of trying to get passive income from it. And then there's also the speculation around the Ethereum ETFs. There's like 9 different things happening for Ether at the exact same time. Therefore, the excitement. Despite the optimism, the analyst highlighted that the Bitcoin ETFs weren't approved easily. Rasmussen agreed with the host, who said that the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission Chair Gary Gensler didn't want a spot Bitcoin ETF. He was dragged into it. The guy's a monster. Like, I don't understand. One of the things that always gets me later on down the line is to see how blatantly that someone lied. That's the thing that always really... Years ago, we heard from Gary Gensler that he did not want the U.S. to have a spot Bitcoin ETF because he said that it would ruin the market. It would allow manipulation. It would do this to so and so and so. There's a whole bunch of other risks for other markets. And you sit here weeks and months later after we already have had the spot ETFs, and you go, where's the craziness, Mr. Gensler? Like, where's all this stuff that you were talking about and predicting that would happen negatively to all these markets? I said that before when Canada got their multiple spot Bitcoin ETFs. The same thing happened over in Europe and multiple other places. I was like, we've seen that these economies haven't collapsed because of Bitcoin ETFs. So why did you lie the entire time? 10 years the SEC lied. The only person who was lightly telling the truth was Miss Woman. I almost said Mrs. Gensler. What's this woman's name? Tabitha? The one who everyone was calling Crypto Mom for a long time. I can't remember her name. Sandra Susan? Sally Sue. And then what ended up happening is that Grayscale had to sue the SEC for them to be able to finally allow these things to go through. And a lot of the reasoning, Hester Pierce nailed it. A lot of the reasoning right now that people believe there's going to be Ethereum ETFs is because the SEC basically doesn't want to go through another situation where they lose another lawsuit, especially because you can't really go against BlackRock, because they're BlackRock. Furthermore, the analyst claimed that the Grayscale lawsuit benefited ETF issuers and led to their approval. Good job, Grayscale. However, here's the dumb part. However, the analyst believes that won't be the case for Ethereum. He said, this May, I think there's a 50% chance we'll see approval and 50% chance we'll see rejection. Wow, regular old Shakespeare here. A lot of people always do this because they don't really want to put how do I say this? A lot of people who go on TV a lot of times, especially within the cryptocurrency space, you'll constantly hear stuff like that. They go, well, the price is either going to go up or price is going to go down. And it's like, what? I thought it was just going to go sideways forever for the next year and a half. It has to go up. It has to go down. It has to move in some certain way. And it's the same exact thing with a yay or a nay for the ETFs from the SEC. We're either going to get a yes or we're either going to get a no. The amount of energy that we've seen over the last 10 years for the Bitcoin ETFs, there's not that same public energy that we've seen for the Ethereum ETFs. Of course, people want them, but you've noticed it's not as crazy as everything was going online for the actual Bitcoin ETF. So it might happen, it might not happen. Ethereum will be totally fine. It's more than likely going to go above 10,000 because that's how it works. Previous all-time high was 4,800. It's probably going to at least double and some change. I think that's the only one for the. Yep, that's the only one right here. Yep, that's the optimism and speculation are all over the place as to where prices are going to go. $88,000 by the end of this year is by far the lowest price prediction that we've seen for Bitcoin in 2024. By far. So let's see what happens. A lot of people are still talking about 100K by April, 100K by June, July. 88,000 is the lowest number that we've seen so far, but who knows? That's the Bitcoin 2024 price predictions, Ethereum, Dencon upgrade, update, speculation, Ethereum ETF news. And yeah, let's move on. You're going to begin to notice a pattern over the course of the next couple of months. I'll try and say this lightly and nicely as well. Nicely is the word. Over the course of the last couple of years, there have been a multitude of blockchains that people have known were not as good as other chains. And now they're trying to, when the public is not paying as much attention, they're trying to now move away from these coins and these chains en masse. So you are going to begin to see a lot more news like this in the very near future. As the narrative has not shifted, we've all known for a while that Bitcoin is the market. I told you that back since 2017, and anyone who disagreed with me is probably not watching this channel anymore, but now they understand. There were many other chains and coins that were added to other projects and to cryptocurrency exchanges, and this is why you're seeing a lot of delisting news, because they're just bloat. They're things that don't need to be there. So, yeah. Stablecoin issuer Circle, that is to say the company Circle, who also works with Coinbase, will no longer be supporting the Circle coin USDC on the Tron blockchain. As part of concerns under its risk management framework, in a statement on Wednesday, the company outlined a phased discontinuation of USDC support on Tron. This transition will occur over a period extending until February of next year. They usually do this to give people time because there's always one. If a crypto exchange is telling you, we're going to be discontinuing this coin, we're going to be delisting this coin, you have 6 months to take your money off, there's always someone who waits to the very last day. So you give people an entire year for them to be able to move their coins, even though it should take you 5 minutes and not an entire year, with continued normalcy for USD transfers and redemption activities on Tron until next year. Because the moment you say you can't do this in 6 months, by the time we get to October, someone will scream and be like, I didn't know this was happening. They said, and I quote, "Our decision to discontinue support for USDC on Tron is the result of an enterprise-wide approach that involved the business organization, compliance, and further functions across our company." That's a very nice way of saying we're trying to move away from this garbage. I was mean again. Circle didn't return the request for comment by press time. Here's a little tweet for it right here. There are a lot of coins who over the last few years have had stable coins on them. A lot of these companies did not mention it outright, but it was done as a way to try and show enhanced levels of decentralization. If you have all of your USDC being minted on Ether, and should something happen to Ethereum, well, guess what? All of your coins are gone. So you put it onto multiple different chains and you also mint them there as well. I'm not sure if many of you have seen, it's not even that it's been outright negative, but there's been some news rustling around about the creators of certain coins and the things that they've been saying. And a lot of this has also been known over the years that, if I can be honest, a lot of these coins are garbage and aren't being used and don't have a lot of liquidity. I mentioned before, you may look at the trading volume of a coin. That is not what I mean by actual liquidity. I mean who's using it, what money is flowing through it. Me and you can take 2 apples and exchange $1 million back and forth. It does not mean that those apples are worth $1 million. And also, it's just me and you passing them back and forth between each other. There's no actual ecosystem for it. Yeah, this was, of course, very big news. A lot of people were talking about it, and rightfully so. You will be hearing this news about other coins as well. This is why we've seen news recently about Bitcoin Cash, Satoshi's Vision. A lot of the privacy coins are also now being delisted from other platforms as well, and this will continue until things have finally whittled down to some of the coins that actually matter, because a lot of them over the course of the last 7 years have not gotten as much use or upgrades or updates as we were told that they were going to get. That's the Circle coin is no longer going to be supported on the Tron blockchain news. It should have never been there. And yeah, let's move on. Also, for some reason, we get a lot of country news within the cryptocurrency space. The Central Bank of the Republic of Turkey, the country, announced its second interest rate decision of the year. The central bank, which has increased interest rates in 8 different meetings since June of last year, has left their interest rate where it was before at 45%. For those of you who missed it a couple of days ago, we heard that, was it Denmark? No, I think it was Norway. Bitcoin reached a brand new all-time high in Norway and has been doing so in many other countries as well. Turkey's also one of them. A lot of terrible terrible economic policies over the course of the last couple of years have caused a lot of fiat currencies to begin to collapse. The interesting part is that many people within the cryptocurrency space tend to nearly only pay attention to like negative US dollar news. So you'll hear that the US dollar went down or something happened to the US dollar. And I implore you to start paying attention to the devaluation of currencies and fiat collapse in other places on the planet. Have you ever seen that thing where like there's like a whole bunch of dominoes, but there's like a really tiny one, and you push the really tiny one, then the next one, the next size falls, and the next size falls, and the next size, and it keep going over and over and over until the big gigantic one is that was supposed to be something falling, but that's not the right sound. This is what's currently happening. So while people continuously pay attention to the US dollar doing this or not doing this, I've seen certain days on Twitter where people will actually argue that Bitcoin should have gone down that day in price because the US dollar went up comparatively against other currencies by like 1/4 of 1%. And it's like, no, you're not paying attention to while the US might have done well that day, 14 other countries did extremely terribly. If you get a chance, if you get a chance, two things. If you get a chance, the Japanese currency continues to fall. Bitcoin has recently hit a brand new all-time high against the Japanese yen, way before we even actually have the halving. These economic policies are actually ruining the economy in many other places. And as such, this is why I can only assume this was also a relatively popular news within the cryptocurrency space, because we've also heard that amongst the countries where the citizens are actively buying a lot of crypto to escape hyperinflation within their countries. Think of what think of what happens when you have an interest rate at 45%. It's not the inflation rate, which is also higher. Their interest rate is at 45% to try and get the economy under control. Imagine you buying a house and you say, what's the interest rate? They don't say 2%. They don't say 4%. They don't even say 7%. The woman goes, it's 45%. You're like, 45 per what? 45% is absolutely insane. The Monetary Policy Committee, or the MPC of the central bank, following its first meeting chaired by Fatih Karahan, announced the second interest rate decision of the year. With the decision of the MPC, the policy rate for February was kept at 45%, lovely, in line with expectations. With this decision, the central bank has paused after implementing a total rate increase of 36.5% over the course of the last 9 months. Not really much more to go on. They're trying to basically disinflate their currency, and it's not working out too well. A lot of countries who have situations where one or two, usually one person, kind of gives the final ruling for everything, tend to usually sometimes have incredibly terrible economies. And as such, many places across the planet recently, if you've been paying attention, who have really bad economic policies, it's a lot of times, so I've read in the news, it appears that it is people who don't know economics and or aren't too good with monies who usually end up giving the economic decisions, and then the country ends up going through situations such as this one on the screen. So, yeah, very popular news. I'm going to try and find the thing about all the countries where Bitcoin has just hit a brand new all-time high, because it is, to say fascinating is a complete understatement. And I can only imagine, this is my opinion, I can only imagine that a large portion of the reason why you don't hear about this on news programs that you and your family might be watching at nighttime and or otherwise is because You can't really have news like that floating around out there. It would cause a panic that should be. But if people realized, can you imagine if you sat down, you know how like you've seen the normal like nightly news. It's like this happened, that happened, this happened, this happened. Usually like a whole bunch of like sad and crazy stories because the world is very dystopian. But imagine if one of the stories was Bitcoin has just reached a brand new all-time high in 14 different countries whose economies are collapsing. And then they talk about it for another minute and a half and they go, yeah, people there are choosing to use Bitcoin over the euro, the yen, and the US dollars as their new way to get out of inflation. Mathematically, around 10% of people watching that nightly news or something on CNBC or other places, they're going to start buying Bitcoin. Bitcoin's price goes up, more people start buying Bitcoin. So it's all by design, and this is why we keep hearing negative news from Mr. Jamie Dimon all the time and all his other band of friends about how terrible Bitcoin is when they know what's happening. Like they literally know what's happening with the coin, how much it's being used, and where it's going to be in the future. Yeah. I do hope that you have all enjoyed. I do hope that you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever the heck you might be. I do hope it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and or supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.